It's like having church this morning. You've just been treated to the wonderful sounds of harmonious praise. They are Adventists. And this morning when they came out, they were told what it's all about. They say, we got a few things for that. So thank you for being so responsive. They've traveled throughout the United States and they need to come to New York, so I leave that to Ron. Just want to recognize the St. Julians because they promised Minister to buy us dinner. I don't know if they know that because they're not going to be here for dinner. They said that they would cover dinner. We just want to say hello to the St. Julians. Also to a wonderful lady, Mary Peterson, who used to live in Atlanta, and she's now up in, I believe, Virginia, and she's almost retired now. She's living off her holdings. We'd like to say hello. It's nice to be reacquainted with the Bahamas again. Ladies and gentlemen, you all being here in this room today is because of the leadership and the tourism, I want to say charm. He has that naturally. The wisdom, he has that in abundance. And leadership, he has all of us following him, and we're delighted to. Ladies and gentlemen, the person who's leading the Bahamas' tourism charge in the world today, the person who's saying to all of us here in the Bahamas that we can and will do more, the person who's saying that we are committed and will show the world that we are the best at hospitality. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to introduce to you the Honorable Obi Wilscombe, Minister of Tourism.
We thank my brother Malcolm very much for very kind words on this Sunday morning. Let me also say good morning to you. Good morning. And let me say you are formally welcome to the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. We are particularly pleased to have you in our midst today so that we can show you who we are as a people. We can show you that we are a people very proud of ourselves, that we have, over the last 31 years of our independence, we've been able to nurture a wonderful country and take full advantage of the opportunities given to us by our Maker. Which is why on every occasion we take the time to give thanks. We take the time to expose our visitors to our belief in the Christian values. Right. If you read our Constitution, you would see that it's enshrined, that we believe, and that we abide by the Christian principles. And if you listen to the words of our national anthem, particularly our last sentence in that anthem, may the road you trod be unto your God. It's about the way you live. It's about what you do, not what you say. And that is why I am very proud to be here as a member.
That shot. John Carlos, Tommy Smith. have you covering it.
I got you.
So I applaud you, and I fully welcome you. So, sir, I want you to enjoy this. Next time you look, please remember you share with us. Share with us here. Daniels, I know that you must be going through tremendous nervous energy. I know the important thing to organize and make it all happen, it takes a lot of work. But you've done a good job. And these people are so happy. But your efforts have brought us closer together because we're all a part of the same.
Wonderful minister, tourism, who I remember well as we stood on the podium, stood on the terrace celebrating the 200th anniversary of Haiti's liberation, of Haiti's defeat of French slavery, as we stood there on January 1st this year. I want to draw attention, first of all, to someone who is very important to me. I was a young student many years ago, and I just happened to walk, many years ago, and I just happened to walk into a poetry reading. The words had an enormous impact on me. At the time, interestingly enough, I was not in school, I was working somewhere, and in part, the reason why I went back to school at San Francisco State was because of her, that glorious moment that I first met her. She became my teacher at San Francisco State College as a student there, Sonia Sanchez. Yeah. To say that we are at a different over the last few years, and many have said for a long time, and at the expense of being repetitive, I want to say that again, and we must be very clear at this moment what we're dealing with in the world, and what we're dealing with as we make choices about who we want to be in the world and what's important to us in the world. As I said before, I want to commend your
participation in this cruise because you've made a clear statement about what you think is important in the world and whose stories that you want to tell in the world. I'm a storyteller. What I do in my work is to tell stories, so it is imperative that I know whose story I'm telling and also what values do I want to extract from that story. Key point. What I want to say in that story, how I want to uplift those people, how I want to anoint those people whose story I am telling. A key element of what we're doing. But storytelling is simply what we do in our oral lives, because we define who is important in the world, who lives matter in the world. It is about how their story is received and embraced in the world. Key and important in that. And you've chosen to be on this cruise, this historic cruise, because we don't get a chance to do it again. I don't do it again. My grandson, who's 7 months old, won't get a chance to be on the 300th anniversary of the Haitian liberation. But we get this one opportunity to do this. So it's critical we understand how we take this moment and not only use this moment to understand the historical significance of Haiti, but also understand what that 200 years has meant to Haiti and the rest of the world. But Haiti, particularly, Haiti for us and the rest of the world. And it's extraordinary, because when we talk about in history, we also talk about the absence of the presence of people, because their story is not told. So the understanding of Haitian history also means we have to understand the uses of that history, or the lack of use of that history. If we use the history of Haiti, if the history of Haiti, the history is used, then it motivates us, and it becomes a catalyst for us to do what we need to do in the world. So if we make it and that history is a history of struggle. That history is a history of sacrifice. That history is a history of people shedding their blood. And shedding their blood and being knocked down and standing up and again shedding that blood. And we must realize that. But there are forces who don't want us to realize that that's what that history is. There are forces that want us to realize that over the course of 200 years, there's been 34 coup d'etats. There's been an occupation by the U.S. government. The government refused to say that. Because the demands of the Haitian people are for justice. The demands of the Haitian people are for fairness. The demands of the Haitian people are for the demands of the Haitian people are for a standard of living that's decent. The demands of the Haitian people is the entitlement to health care, education. Those are the demands of the Haitian people. And the demands of the Haitian people are to have the representatives that they elect represent them. And when they feel that they do not represent them, then they vote them out of office. And the demands of the Haitian people are for that. We must remember that. We must hold that true. And if we hold that true, then we hold it true not only for them, but we hold it true even more importantly for ourselves.
That's right.
We demand justice where we are. And we can hold it true as for all those who demand justice in the world. All those who demand justice in the world. Clearly, the process that began many years before the election of the Lagos government was a process of people lifting themselves up, of a process of people picking themselves up from the ground and making those same demands that we just talked about. That process began long before that. So the Lagos government was only a representative of that process of people who've been oppressed, people who have been stepped on and kicked about. That's what that process is. And that process has to continue. It must continue. It must continue. And we have to support that process.
Yes.
So I'm calling on you because as I stand here before you, as I stand here before you, 2 weeks ago, There's a process that happened, and we have to marry ourselves. We have to embrace that process. We don't embrace that process. If we do not hold on to that process in Haiti, that means that process will not work any place in the world. That means that process, that anytime someone decides that they want to overthrow a democratically elected government, whatever differences, whatever weaknesses we may have felt with the present government, it was a democratically elected government. It had existed, it was there to exist. It's the embodiment of people's ideals. Ideals mean that you hold this steadfast and you try to reach that. That's what ideals are. So that's what that is. So I'm saddened that I won't be with you on this cruise. I have chose to fly here from Miami. I chose to not only fly here from Miami, meet you again, because I know that there are capable people on this ship who are going to be there to have a discourse with you over a period of time, to understand all the dynamics. Because when we talk about the dynamics, we have to understand what is happening in the world and how Haiti fits into the whole plan of what is decided in the world. But we have to stand up to that, and we have to say no to that. So I know that this cruise is not only to take this step right now where it is, to have the serious discussion, the important discussions, but what they would do and after that is that they begin to be active in seeing and making the Haiti and realizing that the people of Haiti need justice and need justice now. Thank you.
Tyrone and Justice Mark Morrell, if he's here, Senator Hank Sanders, Malika Sanders, Shani O'Neill, Regent Adelaide Sanford, Dr. Eleanor Daniels, Jean-Jean Pierre, Dr. Gilbert Parks, and Letty Dunstan. Would you please come quickly? Would you please come quickly to join Danny Glover on the stage? Danny, would you come join us? And Minister Wilson, would you please join us as we try to capture this historic moment? Beat me up later about who got picked and who didn't. Okay. It'd be better up here, actually. No, you can come around. Oh, okay. All right.
Is Mary France here, my right here? Let the women in the brother. All right, let's see. Yeah, that's better. You're going to have to pull the edges around. Hold on 1 second. Joe Beasley, did I call your name? I should have. Obel Duray. Okay. The man behind Susan. It's too wide. It's too wide. It's too wide.
Can we have a few chairs, if you don't mind, just quickly? Give us about 3 minutes. Huh?
Two more chairs.
It's too low? It's too high. Why don't we turn this
Once you take your pictures up front, would you please move back so other people can take pictures, please? Opio Touré, Representative Touré, are you?
I was already there. I got enough of that.
We'll get you at the next stop. Okay.
Excuse me.
Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so very much for being such a wonderful audience. We didn't realize that you had so much photographic skills. Trinity Assembly Church. It's a non-denominational church. And if you were not here, they would have been in church singing for collection. No, you're not going to be taxed this money. We find down here Mr. Fred Ferguson. Fred Ferguson. He's a musical arranger. One of the most humble guys you've ever seen anywhere. Thank you so very much. Now sit back as you've done all morning and
yes. All right. Hi, welcome to Cruising into History, the 200th celebration, bicentennial of Haitian liberation. I'm here with our ambassador, Danny Glover, and Sonia Sanchez. We're so happy to have you. Good. I wanted to ask you, Danny, as an ambassador of Cruising into History, I want to know that.
Danny, comme ambassadeur of Cruising into History, qu'est-ce que ça veut dire?
Well, certainly it was new. It felt like something that was very new and extraordinary. Ron had conceived of the idea that it was historic. It was to celebrate Haitian liberation, and not only to celebrate Haitian liberation, tie celebration into the current situation today, which at the time, as we emerged in this, was this idea was a real fragile but very dynamic democracy.
C'est Ron Daniels qui est venu ensemble avec lui. Et même si il commençait à avoir des très fragiles, on va dire que la démocratie en Haïti est très fragile, mais c'était une idée qui était très dynamique et très puissante.
And speaking of the circumstances that are interesting to know, I think we want to know a little bit more about your travel in the country.
Quand on regarde les circonstances qui ont passé aujourd'hui, nous avons fait parler de notre décision qu'on fait que pour ne pas voyager avec nous sur la bateau.
Well, first of all, I mentioned the fact that when we conceived of the idea that we were celebrating Haiti's history, was celebrating this extraordinary democracy that was born out of blood and sacrifice. Even in the same way that the liberation itself was born out of blood and sacrifice. So the idea that we were celebrating this gave us even more leverage in what we were doing, and we were able to focus on what we were doing. We're not only saying that Haiti has a glorious history, but potentially, if we all came behind it and supported it, it had a glorious future as well. Well, certainly the events of February 29th changed that in a dynamic way, and it has caused enormous pain and enormous dislocation and death and repression for thousands of Haitian people.
So
comme nous connaissons, l'idée, c'est une idée qui est faite parce que nous connaissons très bien que la démocratie haïtienne a commencé avec un peu de sang, avec un peu de bataille pour des décisions de victoire. Et parallèlement, c'était la même bataille pour des libération. Et il a commencé tout avec un pile humain, un pile sang, un pile victoire. Mais ça ne voulait célébrer, c'était l'idée d'évolution. C'est ça que voulait célébrer. Mais malheureusement, nous avons des problèmes qui viennent dérouler par la suite.
So there's a certain responsibility that we all have to ourselves and outside of ourselves to the responsibility we have in struggle. And I feel that deeply. And I felt that the most critical way, the most important way in which to be clear about and make it clear about the understanding was to not participate in the cruise. Because I felt the cruise was being built as an instrument to validate and endorse the present situation. And we cannot endorse the present situation. We must, with all our energy, just with all our forceful energy, outside of it, support the people who continue to struggle.
Sorry.
Définitivement, même nous là pour supporter le mouvement qui a fait pour la libération. Nous sommes capables de supporter ça dans Haïti du tout. Nous devons faire tout ça capable pour supporter. Et le fait que nous n'avons pas participé, fait que nous pas supporter ça qu'a fait en Haïti. Parce que en Haïti déjà, le gouvernement qui est en place voulait utiliser croisièrement pour être capable de légitimiser ça que nous faisons. Donc, il faut que nous continuions à supporter tout le mouvement, toute lutte qui a fait le peuple en Libérie.
And I think it's important to also say that I'm not alone in this in terms of my feelings. My sister Sanchez has also been very clear about her position in terms of what is happening and what the cruise should represent and what is happening.
Et moi, par contre, moi, dans la décision, ça a aller dans le président. Et moi, j'ai seul tour, Mme Sonia Sanchez, qui a décidé de ne pas aller non plus. Et je crois que les mêmes tours ne vont pas d'accord parce que les mêmes tours ne sont pas d'accord avec le mouvement qui a fait en Haïti et ça qui est fait ici, tout et dans le pays ici. Peut-être qu'ils ne vont pas aller dans le métier.
And just before, Sonia, I would love to hear from you. A lot of us are wondering, during this cruise, and those of us who want to travel in Haiti again and again and again, how do we do humanitarian activities without getting involved in politics and the government? Because a lot of times, because of the circumstances, we're having to rely on the government for some of our travel or going deeper into Haiti, which is what a lot of us want to do. How do we, as activists and artists who want to participate in helping with the struggle, do this without people getting mixed up?
Sometimes, il y a un pile de nous qui est trop content d'aider Haïti, faire œuvres humanitaires en Haïti, mais surtout avec le problème qui gagne dans le gouvernement. Qui gens nous capables d'aider Haïti, rentrer, faire œuvres humanitaires, même si c'est ça que nous fait avec cause là, sans que nous puissions mêler ensemble avec le gouvernement. Qui gens nous fait ça?
Yeah, well, I think that the point is that we are going to get involved in politics. I think the point of Brother Danny and the point of many of us is that this is really a moral issue that is existing, that the conversations have gone back and forth for months about this, and a final decision was made. So it was not an easy decision. It is not in any way, as Danny has said, to say to people, you shouldn't do this. But we are saying that if you do it, you've got to begin a really critical discussion about what is truly going on in Haiti, the position of the United States, what a coup d'etat really means, what it really means to talk about a democracy. And you cannot talk about democracy without bringing in the idea of politics and peace. And this is what is so important. And my dear sister, I think on the cruise, what should be done simply is that people have got to begin real dialogue, and dialogue as to how indeed do we consciously mount this campaign to help Haiti. Because someone said simply, we only go in when there's an emergency. Haiti only surfaces either on two levels, what I call a cultural level, you know, where we cruise into something, or if there is a problem, or there's a coup d'etat. In between, people are struggling. In between, people are starving. In between, a country that shows us how to look at liberty. You know, in the Western world, how in the world do you look at liberty, and how do you fight for it? There are lessons to be learned. You know, everyone should have read the Black Jews, you know, before they got on these rules, because at some point you really cannot understand the history and history of that country. So I think that this is the beginning point. It should be looked at as the beginning point. This is where we begin, and this time next year, where will we be as far as this is concerned?
C'est pas dit n'a dit nous ne pas aller dans cruise là parce que nous fait décision nous-mêmes pour pas aller, c'est pas dit n'a dit nous pas aller parce que grand pile discussion qui était faite autour de décision ça nous pas levé on jour matin nous dit pas aller grand pile discussion qui était faite et nous t'ai parlé nous t'ai chita nous t'ai analysé même situation qui a passé en Haïti nous t'a aimé tout le monde participer. C'est pour mettre en impact pour participer parce que c'est pas là seulement nous voulons parler de culture, c'est pas là seulement bon problème en Haïti pour les laisser qu'on a foré comme nous. Non, c'est depuis combien pour nous commencer à participer et ça qui est plus important, il faut nous discuter en pile pendant nous dans croisière là. Chita, parler, regardez qui ça nous bral fait pour Haïti. Parce que année ça, mais qui côté nous et année prochaine, qui côté nous palier. Et lutte pour Haïti est important en pile. Nous avons souhaité tout le monde qui a une chance pour lire les Jacobins noirs. Parce que ça a montré vraiment qui genre de peuple que le peuple haïtien était. Un peuple qui était bas nous direction pour nous qui genre pour nous-mêmes nous sommes capables de gagner liberté. Donc c'est pour tout le monde participer, les meilleurs dans le parlant. Et moi je crois que croisière là c'est un point de départ.
Thank you. I know that, Dan, you have to get out of here, so I want to say thank you to you. Maybe, Sonia, you can stick around for a moment. I'm not sure. Okay, we're going to wrap it all up. Well, thank you to both.
All right.
Thank you.
Merci à vous.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, then.
Okay.
Take care. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, bro. I'll talk to you.
I'll see you in the Virgin Islands.
Okay, then. All right, bro. All right, then.
Okay, got. I saw you earlier.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Keep in contact sometimes, okay? Because I only see you when we get ready to make the trip.
Are you here with anybody?
Yes, I am. I'm here with I'm here with Danny. Okay. I know, but you call me. I come your way sometimes, you know. So get that shot up. It has to be.
Voices. So there are two questions. One is, give us a sense of how you feel about, you know, the decision and, you know, that we went through and whatever. What's your feedback? What's your feelings about that? We're not asking everybody else. We're just asking Haitian American only speakers. Everybody else will listen. Second question is, we want to begin a conversation. We're saying that we want to help. We want to be involved as African Americans. Tell us how you feel we can be most helpful. What are some of the areas? What are some of the things you think are important? We're just basically going to listen and take that information. Because the way this has been set up, not necessarily intentionally, is that we are talking. We're saying to Haitians we want, but there's nothing coming back this way. We got to, and there's another aspect of it, even in terms of how we did the VIPs and so forth. So there are people in the Haitian America who should be VIPs, but we don't know who they are, like the doctors, and we don't who would have been on the list. I know the African Americans. I don't know the Haitian Americans. So that was an imbalance because we didn't have that feedback coming this way. So in the future, we'll correct that. You know, it's important that we see it. And then what we want to do with all the sessions to some degree, other than the one this afternoon, which is kind of a special session, is when the youth meet tomorrow afternoon, we want general stuff, because one of the goals of the youth session is to say, how are we going to set up this intergenerational conversation? You can people just take that out. What do you want to do in that time block? That would be useful. But also a piece of it is, how can young people, you know, relate to Haiti? What's that piece all about? We're going to ask Susan Taylor to do the same thing with the women's issue piece. It's a generalized conversation. It's also a conversation about, you know, how do we hook up with women's organizations? And that's our argument. Obviously, you got Haitian American women right here, so that's a conversation that begins to happen that way. So we have much more going in that direction, and to the degree that we can get some concrete suggestions, we may not be able to do them all, at least we'd like to hear them, because I'd like to produce some kind of communique coming out of here where we can say, you know, we said some specific things that we wanted to talk about. Like Haki has already made a major commitment from the New Concept Development Center. If they want to take a school, we're going to ask them whether they'll take, for example, the Cape Haitian municipal school system. Because the municipal schools in Haiti are the poorest of the poor. And if we start then helping to just lift those up with school supplies, whatever the materials that are needed, that would be a huge contribution. You know, and he was doing that, mobilizing out of Chicago, for example. So anyway, we're going to try to move the dynamic in that direction. The other thing, I know John got the video for tomorrow, but I just want to make sure everything's in place to show the anonymous, whatever thing that's supposed to be. Is that tomorrow? That is tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow, 4:30 to 7.
So, those are, you know, those are my things I want to do. They're working on it. Yeah, I don't, you know.
They were told to keep it till.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. In fact, we didn't even. What we really want to do is to integrate from the different pastors, which is an announcement we want to make. Not only pastors, but you know, various spiritual traditions and so forth. Just a little libation, a little something spiritual in every, at least the beginning of the first session every day. You know, something just to energy. So it's not just a thing that's going to be working and woven. People kind of know where different things are now, so people can be telling people where, and even then are hosting people, because tonight that's a major decision, because we need to be able to say in these 2 sessions this afternoon that, you know, those who want to dress up fine, but there's an alternative. And I ain't dressing up. I may go the next time, not tonight. But people need to know, because these are first-time cruises, I never go to breakfast because I like to just go up to the wind jam on the 11th floor. It's great. It's wonderful. You ain't got to worry about, you know, just sit where you want to sit, wherever you sit. But that's also, obviously that's lunch. And then in the dinner time, you don't have to go. You can go and they have a menu if you don't want to go to the formal dinners. They won't let you in if you miss you. Decked out. So I don't know where to go with this, but one of the things is that badge thing is people are asking. We gotta diffuse the badge thing. Everybody wants the badge. You just gotta know that.
So anybody who we need to then have a list of anybody who doesn't have one, and say that they would get it and name it, so we can do that.
Right. And so for our
you did make them?
Yeah.
They started it.
Yeah.
We just want to reinforce it, add it, make sure we got it all. The other thing we have to creatively think about is we got these T-shirts, so we want to actually hustle. I don't know whether, like Haki speaks in the morning, one morning, so Haki is going to actually make contributions. If people want to buy a book, they can buy the books, and they can check to Hate Support Project when you decide, or Oklahoma, whatever they're designated towards. I don't know what they're doing.
So how is that going to work? We're going to let people buy books?
Yeah, he said he don't want the money. He said any books that people buy, in effect, it'll be a contribution. So it's a technical difference, but we're not selling it. It's, you know, people make a contribution to the book or something. We just got to figure out creatively how to, and probably in those conversations it's easier because nobody's going to come out. But the other thing is hustle these t-shirts. We got 100-something t-shirts, 150 t-shirts to try to people want one. Yeah. I know. We just got to figure out whether we can set up a time and they can come up to our room and we host a little reception or what. We just got to creatively figure out to do it.
Well, what we could say.
Same thing in the contribution-wise.
Yeah, I think that's what we have to do.
You may want to do $20 contribution up, you get a t-shirt. That way the t-shirt's included somehow.
Well, y'all think that through because that's what we want to end up trying to do actually getting very frustrated and let down by this whole process. And we had Wayne and I, there's a book, there's Marie's book, and there's a whole bunch of stuff, you know, so people get, you know, $50 contribution, get a t-shirt and a book or something.
What I think we got to do, what I think we have to do is this, is we have to have the t-shirts, the book, and another book, whatever, I don't know what titles, Hockey Ball. But if we had that where people could see it, and we could make, say, anybody who makes a contribution of $25 gets this. If it's $50, you get this. And if it's $100, you get this. And we just let people make contributions. That's not selling.
That's right.
That's just a contribution because we got to raise money. So assuming that...
And the time is, we have that block of time for the marketplace on...
Play. Because we got to do it.
The IT shooting?
Yeah.
But that's not a play, that's just a program. That's a program.
So they got it's a play in it.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's a whole elaborate thing they got ready.
I think it started at the point where everyone's really gathering, you know what I mean? So if it's the place in the Studio B, I don't know where, like on top of the stairs, the table is there. People walk in, they see the contribution table.
But that's going to be,
let me tell you what I'd like to see happen. I gotta go see what's done. I gotta get over to this. Somebody needs to almost cover it because I'm not gonna get to the. And I don't know where Mark Morrell. I think like his wife was kidnapped. I said, chill out, son, because I called him. I'm not sure he'll even do it, but I need somebody to be at that session on time because I'm gonna miss it being on time. But I'll be there to help get it started. There's a marketplace thing we built in and we left it in there, right?
Yeah, we did. It's on the 20th.
Yeah.
But it's, let's see.
Yep, it's in the
we had it
afternoon.
the same time with the women's issue on the 20th, which is Friday, from 1:30 to 3:30.
But it's in the conference center, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's going to work. I don't want to lose people.
Wait a minute. I was still at what you're talking about. You're going to not be at.
No, what I was
you're
trying
going to be at something at 2:30, right?
Yeah, because the next session's at 2:30. What I was trying to think of was a place where you build to a crescendo in the program, which could be at the end. I mean, it could be you're building up. They would have gone to Haiti. They would have seen we've gone through that experience. And the idea, frankly, is if the ideal place would be, because we're going to make...
The books are there already. The t-shirt, you know what I mean? So, I mean, I've never been to Miami, but as I know, I hear the books are, they sell the books there, right?
No, the books are, we have the books.
She also sells the books on, don't they sell on site?
I would like
certain things that are sold on site.
I'm not talking about doing it in Larry. I'm talking about when we do the State of the Black World Forum, we can be saying people all along. I mean, people have asked us, can you make contributions? We try to, we think that may be a good thing. We want people to begin to think in terms of doing that. Because I don't have the last word in this session. And I intend to make a strong presentation. And after that presentation will be the time to do contributions. Now your point, Peggy, is you think we'll lose people by
I think they'll still contribute when you make your point, but in terms of the t-shirt and then the books, like the whole setup we're talking about, we'll lose them because they would have bought those books on, by the time, they would have bought those books.
Are you taking
on
IT Shuri? I'm taking IT Shuri
I'm
too
taking
because
IT Shuri because they're going to be so excited.
Because they want the t-shirt to get off the boat to go to La Ballet.
Oh, I got you, yeah.
But then the contribution part, I agree with you, but in terms
I'm
of...
trying to do the formula. The formula is if you got the formula where you do, because I'd like as many people to put $100 down to get the whole package. That's what I'd like to do. Anyway, let's think about it. We don't have to definitively solve it this morning, but there's some other issues that we have to solve in terms of, when people are going to collect their stuff they brought, we asked them, they brought it, and then we got to figure out just how to package it. Just not when do we collect it, how do we package it, getting it off the ship, all of those things.
Do you need staff assistant for the 2:30?
No, we just need if I don't make it there on time, we just need to you just need somebody to kind of host. In some instances, you need people just to be who's there just hosting, welcoming people, and I'll be there shortly. We're not gonna start at exactly 2:30 anyway. I'll be there no later than say 20 minutes to 3.
But at least if the folks come, just people there, okay.
Yeah, right. And then I don't know how to set up it because it's set up the way. Well, we'll see. Because if the setup, it's going to be hard to do a conversation with people if they uplift.
Play, and I want to just tell you a little about the historical circumstances that bring us to this place and why it is so important. If we knew that connection between reparations and that, maybe our people would not be so resistant to the fight for reparations. That's just one example. I come from Selma, Alabama. All of you know about the history of Selma and the fight for voting in Selma. But few people know about a struggle that took place in Selma in 1990 to end racial tracking. And tracking started like 15 years after the Brown decision, when the South was determined to keep schools what one writer called savagely unequal. Not just separate, but savagely unequal. And the young lady that will do this one-woman show was at the heart of a movement on decision by leveling. You call it? I tried, I really did try. I remember my first teaching job. Matter of fact, it was right before the Brown decision. I jumped up to go to school and teach those children joyfully every day. I was so excited about teaching them babies. Matter of fact, I wanted them to learn so bad that I got a hold of some of those good books from across town. And I went way beyond what the curriculum said. Them children scored some of the highest scores in the whole county. But you know what? Instead of being excited about those test scores, they got angry with me. Matter of fact, by the time the conversation was over, they made it seem like I had till sundown to get out of town. But teaching children, but making sure children could excel. They act like it was a wild, wild west somewhere. I had to leave that little schoolhouse and that little town forever. All because I wanted them children to learn. And when the Brown decision came down, I thought, oh my, there's a little hope. Maybe they won't mind our children learning something for real. Honey child, it was almost 15 years later before the schools in my area desegregated. And do you think that it made a difference? You know what law they upheld? The law of circumvention. And that law has never been repealed. Because instead of the children going to separate schools, they went into separate classrooms. That's all they did.
Concrete steps that we need to take now to continue the work that was begun by the people who brought the Brown decision. Number two, Bill Cosby offered some controversial and thought-provoking comments. And I want to know if you agree, disagree, partly agree, partly disagree, and more, were his comments more helpful or more hurtful to the discussion that we need to have in this country. So, to begin, let me introduce all of our panelists. First, Sandra Jarrett Beasley, as she describes herself, the wife of Joseph Beasley, the mother of Rodney and Roderick Beasley, the mother of Angie Beasley, grandmother of 9, great-grandmother of 1. She deserves a round of applause for that. Grandmother of 9, great-grandmother of 1. Daughter of Reverend Billy and Mrs. Jenny Jarrett, retired public school educator, former high school principal, a born teacher, has a BS in education, a master's in curriculum and instruction, and is an ed specialist in administration. She says she's got these degrees because they allowed her to make more money. She's done all the coursework towards a PhD, but she says, I am not writing my dissertation because I have no desire to write anything anymore. And ladies and gentlemen, she's with us today, Sandra Jarrett Beasley. Then we also have Carol Lee Safisha Manabuti, Associate Professor of Education and Social Policy at Northwestern University in Chicago, founder, Institute of Positive Education, also founder of the New Concept School, Betty Shabazz International Charter School, an African-American centered school in Chicago, and a very well-known educator. Carol Lee, ladies and gentlemen, give her a hand. Also with us today, we have the distinguished Vice Chancellor for the Board of Regents of the state of New York, Adelaide Sanford. She's the first African American to hold a position in the 217-year history of the Board of Regents. Developed the concept of the Board of Education for People of African Ancestry. It operates out of the John H. Clark House, John Heinrich Clark House in Harlem, which was bought by a group of African American advocates. Established a Heinz Sanford Family Recognition Award for the study of the history of African Americans in New York State. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished educator Adelaide Sanford. Also with us today is the Reverend Willie Wilson, the pastor of the Union Temple Baptist Church in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., where he's led that congregation for 30 years. He served as the executive producer of the program for the historic Million Man March. He's organized over 100,000 men in the Washington metropolitan area for that historic march. Recognized in 1986 by USA Today newspaper as one of the top 10 most valuable people in America, and led the political comeback of former Mayor Marion Barry. Ladies and gentlemen, the Reverend Willie F. Wilson. In no particular order, but I'd like to begin with Adelaide Sanford and pose those two questions to you. Brown v. Board, how far have we come and what steps do we need to take? And number two, Bill Cosby's comments, helpful, hurtful, agree, disagree, partially agree, partially disagree? 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Or however long you want to take.
My beloved, all who's extraordinary, dedicated, tenacious, intelligent, creative, resilient people. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Brown versus the Topeka Board of Education did a great deal for public accommodations, for the disabled, for gays, all of which is extremely important, but was not able to make the changes in education for children of African ancestry. I believe that those who have benefited most from that decision are not of African ancestry, but they are women. And of course it was of some benefit in terms of public accommodations for all people. But the enormous resistance that was propelled after that decision matched the historic disappointments of people of African ancestry as they have attempted to define their humanity in America. From the time that Crispus Attucks from Barbados, who took the first death blow in Boston because he thought he would be free if America was free from England. What a disappointment. Revolutionary War, where men of African ancestry begged and fought to fight, thinking that they would be free. And the Civil War, and the Civil Rights Movement, all of which was the attempt of the African American to bring some sense of truth to the American dream. We haven't come very far in education, and what has happened is it has propelled the disappointment, the loss of hope And I believe that's the greatest tragedy of Brown. I was teaching in 1950 when the decision came through, 1954. Teaching in a socially, economically, politically depressed community. And the parents' hopes soared. They thought it was going to be different. The children would have prepared teachers who cared about them. They would have books and materials. And their hopes were dashed because it never was implemented. Integration doesn't just mean children of different colors sitting together. It means integrated administration. It means integrated materials of instruction. It means a value system that says that all children are entitled to meet the maximum of their potential. Much too dangerous for America. That's right. Much too dangerous. I think that in our African consciousness, our sense of justice, that we believed that this would happen. We thought that there was a sense of judgment that had a conscience, and that hope was dashed. And I believe that much of what we see, the pathology that we see, is the loss of hope. Because conditions for our ancestors were infinitely more difficult, more horrendous, but they were clearer. But they had hope. And they believed that things could be better. That will keep you struggling. That will keep you sacrificing. That will keep you marching and protesting and understanding the power of the struggle. But when hope is gone, that's when inertia sets in. That's when the depression is so deep that you look for something to alleviate the pain, and the oppressor is standing there to give it to you. That's right. And so I believe that I have tremendous respect for the people, Thurgood Marshall, and his magnificent teacher who was educated at Howard University, who crafted that, believing that America had a conscience. And I don't want to minimize the results of their brilliance. However, Thurgood Marshall himself was disappointed in himself. I think that ultimately, people of African ancestry will have to realize that no intelligent people abdicate the education of their children to the historical oppressor. That's what we have done, and that's what we're still doing. As an example of that, on the Board of Regents, and I've served on that board now for 18 years. It is an unsalaried position, no support system, no secretary, no driver, no telephone. The children who are suffering most in New York State are children of African ancestry. When we first had the Committee on Low Performing Schools, every low performing school in the state of New York was in a community of color. 70% of the teachers are certified. Books without libraries. Teachers who not only didn't have the academic certification, but didn't have the cultural intelligence and sensitivity to teach our children. But there isn't a single group of advocates of African ancestry there at those meetings, which are public, to speak for our children, to raise a claim for them. And that is because we still have not taken into our own righteous position of being responsible for the education of our children. I think in terms of the second question with Mr. Cosby, I have extremely mixed feelings. This is a man who has been enormously generous. There are programs that he is sponsoring now in Philadelphia for underserved children to give them opportunities for enrichment and intervention. And I think that he was probably also very discouraged. However, I don't think that it has propelled the kind of serious exchange with him that leads to solutions. I believe that the children and their parents did not have the opportunity to get the cultural grounding that helps you to know that as a person of African ancestry, education is a core value and has been across the continent of Africa. Education is a core value, and the responsibility for our children is a core value. But who transferred that information to the parent? Who taught the parent of African ancestry what it meant to be a parent in America, where you don't have the women who take the girls away to teach them how to be women and wives and mothers. And there are no men to take the boys away to teach them how to be men. So the street teaches them, because many of my generation didn't tell the story. And so the children that we are blaming for having children are in a position of not knowing who they are, where they came from, know nothing of the profundity of the intelligence and genius and mastery. First people, first word, first science, first music, first worship of one God, but they don't know that. I accept responsibility for that, and I can't blame the children, and I can't blame their parents. I would like to see a conversation that says, in spite of what you see, in spite of your despair at it, what is it that we do now about the violence in the community? I co-collate Safisha Labu, so on here I'm going to be called Safisha. I think that there is a great irony in terms of where we are 50 years after Brown. Perhaps he uses the barometer. And so if you look at the gap between blacks and whites over the course of the years, over the last 25, 30 years, that gap I think it's important to